So, hi Nigel, thanks for joining us today. And you've already excelled in numerous director roles for over 13 years with turnovers from 10 million to 100 million, and more recently with Dorset Cereals. Tell us briefly a little bit about that inspiring story about what you did with Dorset Cereals.
So we bought the business in spring 2005. It already had a product on sale in the UK supermarkets labelled Dorset Cereals, but we didn't think the packaging was good enough. It didn't tell you how good the product inside the packaging was. It didn't catch the eye for the shopper walking down the cereal aisle looking for something exciting, something different. And muesli, which is what the business made when we bought it, muesli perhaps isn't the most exciting part of a supermarket shopping trip. You know, it's not something that somebody would think is going to be exciting for breakfast. So we thought there was opportunity there. It was great tasting. Muesli's clearly a healthy product to have for breakfast. It's probably the ideal breakfast. It's dried fruit, nuts, seeds and cereals. It really doesn't get better than that. It's quick, it's convenient. If we can make it tasty and we can make it exciting and catch the consumer's eye, then we thought we had a good opportunity to really take this business on that I said was already successful onto the next level. And perhaps as well, I think because muesli isn't perhaps the most exciting place to be if you're a food manufacturer, we thought the competition were very good products, but really a little bit asleep at the wheel, perhaps looking in other places for excitement. So we spent the first year or so deciding what the brand should be and developing the look and the feel and buying equipment and re-equipping the factory to make the fabulous muesli that it already made. We improved the recipes a little bit to make them better, but we particularly improved the packaging a lot. We produced a really unique box for the muesli, an idea that later was copied by many other companies, which is always nice.
Flattery, isn't it?
Flattery indeed. And launched the new product in the new boxes about a year later. Within 2 years, the business had broadly trebled in size. We doubled the number of employees, and we actually, at that stage, we sold the business. Because the business had become so successful as a small independent, we were finding ourselves under more intense pressure from the UK supermarkets who wanted to, shall we say, share in the success of Dorset Cereals, and it made sense at that stage to bring the business under the wing of a larger food manufacturing parent group who could bat our case perhaps higher up in the hierarchies in the supermarket. The business was sold 3 years after we bought it.
Which is amazingly quick.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But as I say, we bought a business that had a great product. We just had to show consumers how and why it was so great, catch their attention. Famously, one of the chief execs of one of the major supermarket chains held up a box of our cereal and said, "This is the only sex on the cereal aisle." And we know sex sells.
What do you think you would put that success of those 2-3 years, what was the most successful things that you did?
It's probably we had a small group of people at the top of that business. There were 2 of us that bought it, and 9 months after we brought in a 3rd member of the team, and the 3 of us absolutely shared a passion for what we were doing, and we shared an interest in what the brand was about. It was that lifestyle thought that we tried to bring to Dorset Cereals. So when you're having your muesli, your breakfast, wherever you are in the country, whether you're in the city of London or in the countryside or Scotland, or maybe on holiday somewhere or halfway around the world even, you can just, before the stresses of the day hit you, you can just take a few minutes to relax and chill with breakfast, think about Dorset kind of things. There was something about it because the business absolutely flew.
I met you when you were speaking. Who else have you seen speak that you admire or enjoyed their talk?
The style that I enjoy and that I've maybe copied is the kind of style that you hopefully saw, which is quite relaxed, quite informal. I do not read, so I don't have sets of notes prepared. I really don't like talks lectures, whatever, where somebody's just reading prepared notes. It's usually boring, they trip up, you don't get comfortable that they actually know what they're talking about. So what I try and do, have some slides with bullet points on there, partly to remind me what I'm supposed to be talking about, and partly to remind the audience what the key messages I'm trying to get over are, and if they drift off, then they can drift back later and catch up, and that's easier. Something slightly distracting if they want to look at some pretty pictures rather than me, quite understandable. So it's those people, I think, that are very, very knowledgeable about what they're talking about and are able to talk kind of freely. It's almost off the cuff, but obviously it isn't. I assume it isn't for them, it isn't for me. You know, the days leading up to a bit of public speaking I don't particularly like. I get nervous. I therefore work quite hard just at going through the slides and trying to remember particular points that I want to make. I usually try and remember little phrases for each slide, and if I've remembered the phrase, then I can expand on that quite happily, almost off the cuff. But going through those slides, you know, setting out some slides that are, it's kind of an aide-memoire for me as well as something for the audience of what I want to be talking about with each one, and then but I won't write a speech, I won't memorise a speech, I won't read a speech.
Yeah, fantastic.
At all.
Fantastic.
I would find that really stressful. I mean, very hard to remember lines, but so I only talk about things that I know well, that I feel very comfortable and confident in talking about, and I suspect the best speakers that I've seen are very good. Yeah, you've got orators perhaps like Barack Obama, who reads a speech, but he does it extremely well with emotion.
He's clearly mastered his art, hasn't he?
And then maybe, I think clips of Steve Jobs talking about Apple products. He seems to be just talking about what he loves. Yeah.
Although he does a lot of preparation for those,
I'm sure he does.
Weeks and weeks he used to do, yeah.
Oh, really?
Absolutely. Okay. Every day, weeks and weeks, and rewrites. So, yeah, it may look natural, but and maybe it is, but he worked on it.
Okay. Well, if I was doing his kinds of speeches to worldwide audiences with lots and lots of media attention, I'd probably do it a little less off the cuff.
Mentioned earlier that you get a little nervous the days before speaking, and those are the things I call the public speaking monkeys, the little voices in your head. And what do you do to manage those little voices or worries before? Is it just practice, or do you have any other techniques?
I just accept the fact that I'm going to be nervous, because I'm not so keen on the run-in, because you have to work and I am nervous and butterflies in your stomach. I'd rather not have those. But I know every time I've done it, once I stand up and start, I get very comfortable very quickly, and then I actually enjoy it. I always enjoy the thing in retrospect, but the run-up, I know I'm going to be nervous. I've got a few butterflies. The more I do, the easier it gets. But I know I'm going to be talking about something that I am knowledgeable about, care about, that I can talk about.
So it's interesting. Once you get going, you actually enjoy it, and afterwards you enjoy it. So it's just the little bit beforehand, or the couple of days beforehand. I think lots of people will empathise with that, actually. Thank you very much.
The thing that's stuck with me, I think, is the thinking pause. You don't have to be talking all the time. It's quite acceptable to stop just for a moment, have a little think, remind yourself what you're supposed to be talking about. I will often have a look at the slide that I've got behind me, just to remind myself that I'm staying on topic, I'm not drifting off. Have I talked about everything that's on that slide? Let's go to the next one and move on, and that's absolutely fine. You don't have to be talking like a machine gun all the way through. Stop, have a think, have a glass of water, it's fine. It's great for calming any nerves as well that are there. So that, I think that the chap that explained that to me called it the thinking pause, I think.
How important do you think it is to be a good speaker, good at presentations, when you're building a business at an accelerated rate?
You do need somebody who's good at public speaking, whether it's to talk to staff, to talk to the outside world, to talk to customers or suppliers. Most of my experience actually is more one-to-one and small group discussions to get things done, rather than addressing a seated audience as might be typical with public speaking. But you've still got to be able to, for me, go down to the factory floor and talk to the guys down there, either one-to-one or in small groups, or maybe from time to time address the whole factory. So you've got to be able to talk to your peers, those who may be above you in an organisation, and those that are below you in the hierarchical structure of most organisations. But you, to be a successful part of a team, don't need to be great at public speaking, but it's useful to have somebody who is, because there will be times when formal-ish presentations need to be made, and you need somebody who's comfortable and confident at that.
Yeah.
And if you're not comfortable and confident at that, but you want to be, because often that is the person who takes the leadership role and the leadership title and salary and
salary as well. Yeah.
Salary as well. If you that is a requirement for leaders, I think, for whoever's leading that small team.
You mentioned earlier about presenting to supermarkets either one-to-one or one to maybe a couple of you. I mean, even though it may not be a big audience, it's clearly a very important audience in your role. What tips would you have for other people out there who need to go out there and do retailer presentations or buyer presentations?
In terms of the retailers, probably two thoughts. The first one is the retailer must have an awful lot of confidence in you and your business being very good at what you do and being right on top of your game. So you've got to appear confident. So it is an important meeting. Prepare well for it. Know your stuff. Because if a retailer doesn't have confidence in you as a supplier, particularly my background is mostly food manufacturing. Food is very important. It can become, when it goes wrong, political and media frenzies very, very quickly. So the retailers need confidence in you and your business. So don't take them lightly, but don't be nervous either. You almost certainly do know far more about your business and the food that you make and supply than the buyer does that you're probably talking to. The buyers are hard worked, possibly overworked. They have very large businesses, effectively, that they're responsible for. They have a very, very tough job, and they need you to help them do their jobs for them. And that's how you will win, I think, with the retailer. You've got to understand what they need, what their pressures are, and take those pressures off them and come up with solutions for the issues that they have. You've got to do their jobs for them, and if you do that and it's successful, and it will be because you know so much and you can find out so much about the marketplace, you probably know far more about your competitors than they do and what they're up to and what other segments of the marketplace might be up to. You can probably do a better job for them than they can do on their own, just because they're stretched so thinly. They're under so much pressure. They've so much to do. Somebody who can come along, take some of that workload off them, make them look great for their boss. It will work for you. It works for them. So, but if you don't offer them solutions, then you're really going to struggle, I think.
Yeah, fantastic.
And at the same, the other thing I would say is the solutions, because you're offering them, you can not only make sure that they work for them, the retailer, but make sure they work for you as well. I've seen too many instances where the retailer says what kind of product they want, and you say, yes, of course we can deliver that, we can do that for you. You go where you can do it, but you find in your factory, the way your factory is set up, it's actually really, really difficult for you. And some minor tweakings to that product would have made it easier for your factory, for your business, therefore more profitable. You'd probably end up with a better product as well, because it's more suited to what your factory does best. And that's better for the retailer. So if you just take what the retailer says as them instructing you, what end result is They might win, but you might lose.
So a win-win situation for both of you, and not following
rocket science, really, is it?
and not following their what they say blindly, but taking guidance, but not
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.